Okay, well, welcome everyone to this webinar called From Academia to Industry and Vice Versa. I'm Hanan. I'm a member at EIT Health Innovators Community and at EIT Women, and I'll be your host for today. Thank you for joining. So, this webinar is part of the Female Leadership Series that is organized, as I said, by EIT Health Innovators Community and EIT Women. We created this Female Leadership Series because we know that when it comes to leadership, women have faced particular issues, and that we know that having women as role models helps in the career advancement. And so this is why we have created the series to actually give a voice to inspiring women and help everyone in the community. And so, as I said, it is organized by Health Innovators Community and EIT Women. The Health Innovators Community is a network of innovators dedicated to improving the quality of life, active aging, and healthcare across Europe, and supports innovators towards their mission in improving health. And EIT Women is a network that activates the power of women in European innovation, entrepreneurship, and technology, and drives positive changes in the topic of gender equality. When it comes to the EIT Health Innovators Community, we were formerly known as the EIT Health Community. So maybe you have seen this name around, and we are glad to announce that we changed branding this month, and so now we are called the Innovators Communities. And EIT is actually a European body to strengthen innovation and technology in Europe. So at EIT Health Innovators Community, as the name announces it, we're a community of volunteers. And what you can do and what you can benefit from when it comes to the community is to be able to learn from experts, for example, through webinars like this, to be able to network, as we are more than 3,000 members on our platform. And our platform also has a job form that is used by many of the startups benefiting from EIT Health. And you can get hired through this. And as well, if you're in a phase in your life where you're interested to become a mentor, we also have this opportunity for you as well. When it comes to EIT Women, as I said, the goal is to drive positive change when it comes to the topic of gender equality. And why? Because we want to close the gap when it comes to leadership, pay, and investment. When it comes to leadership, we know that in Europe, managers are twice more likely to be male, while in major publicly listed EU companies, only 6% of CEO positions are held by women. And this is something that we want to change. Second of all, we know that there is a great pay gap. A woman makes about 80 cents for every euro that a man earns. And when it comes to investment, it's a well-known figure, but only 2% of women, only 2% of the capital invested is received by women. And in order to change this, in order to change this, and the things that we do to be able to make progress in this is threefold: mentorship programs, upskilling and networking events, as well as ambassador programs. In the mentorship programs, you get the opportunity to get mentored by experienced professionals inside of the community. When it comes to upskilling, we do this by in creating webinars, and you get the opportunity to attend live events to learn and to get inspired. And if you want to become a leader yourself, you can take the opportunity to become a local leader in your community as well through the ambassador programs. So this was a bit for the organizations behind this webinar, and I'm glad to introduce you and start the webinar called From Academia to Industry and Vice Versa. And this is a bit of the agenda for today. So this webinar will be a panel discussion led by and moderated by Ocean Bell, who's another community member. Then there'll be a Q&A session. So please, while the panel discussion is ongoing, feel free to write your questions in the chat on the right of this platform. And there's also a special networking moment at the end of the webinar in order for you to speak with the speakers in an informal setting, but also to network with your peers inside this that are attending the webinar. So without further ado, Ocean, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Hanani. I would like to firstly start with asking you all a very quick question. And that is something that you will be seeing right now. The poll is basically to know where you are right now on your career point, because that is something that this webinar is trying to focus on. We want to help you achieve whatever dreams you have of either switching from academia to industry or vice versa, or even in your career right now, if you're looking to make a lateral change, then that. So, now, coming to the actual speakers whom we have had the pleasure of having for this event. Susanna Gilani is a professor of business administration at Harvard Business School. I've had the pleasure of having her lectures myself. She has been teaching at business administration at Harvard Business School since 2015, so 7 years of that, after earning a PhD from Michigan State University. Before pursuing her doctorate, Dr. Galani was a senior manager at Honeywell, which is a huge corporation, and she was involved in business transformation initiatives. So she has always been about the change, and her current research focuses on drawing the economic and sociological theories to analyze the design of incentive and performance management systems, and they have specific focus on healthcare organizations. So thank you so much, Professor Galani, for being here. Moving on, we also have among us Jignasa Gujjar, who is a doctoral candidate, and she is also a local representative for EIT Health Innovators community. She is currently a business development manager at Protogene, and she is the chief technology officer at Cure Rare. And she has 2+ years of business development and sales experience in Germany in biotech, medtech, and genomics. And she also has more than 7 years of scientific laboratory experience in India, UK, and Germany. She is an analytical thinker, which we can definitely agree with. And she is well versed with customer engagement as well. And that really goes to show that she's a woman of many talents. So thank you for being here with us as well, Jignasa. We also have among us Joanna, who is an assistant professor at the University of Porto in Portugal, and she is the founder of ILOF, that is Intelligent Lab on Fiber. She has 6 patents filed, one PCT grant and US within biomedical, signal processing and biophysics and AI fields. And she's the inventor and founder of the technology and startup of ILOF, and she has raised 8 million euros in medtech field. And she's a CTO with leading experience of 10 engineers. She has 9 international recognitions, including a Forbes 30 and under 30, and more than 30 peer-reviewed scientific publications. Oh my God, I'm running out of breath. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here. And I would like to firstly start with getting a deeper understanding of what your journey has been so far. So that's the first question that I have for you. So, Professor Galani, you are the senior most here. So let's start with you. So, what has been the trigger for your journey? Because yours was from industry to academia. And what have your lessons been? So we would really like to know that.
Okay, it's kind of a long story, but I'll keep it very, very short. I would say academia found me and not the other way around. As you stated, I was a senior manager in Honeywell. I was very happy there. I enjoyed my work. I enjoyed the company. I could really see myself retiring from Honeywell many, many years from now. Um, However, then family situations and reasons had us move out of where we were living at the time. My husband's job was not portable, whereas my job was, I could do it from everywhere in the world. And my husband's job was not portable, and he had always wanted to be a professor. So why am I telling you about my husband? Because it's his fault. So or marriage, whichever way we want to look at it. So he decided that this was his opportunity to just jump out of industry where we had met and just follow his dream of being a professor. And I was very happy for him. And at the same time, I thought I would just continue to be a senior manager at Honeywell because I was very happy there too. But then over time, I started to see what he was doing, and I got really, really interested in the research side of things. I had the chance to teach a class because of, again, reasons that I don't have the time to go over. And I absolutely loved doing that. So whereas I loved my job in industry and I had no reason to leave on my own, I thought I had found something that I would love even more. And that's how I did that. So I applied to PhD programs. I was very lucky to be accepted at Michigan State University, which was a fabulous, fabulous program. And here we are.
I am just glad that your husband made that decision because that brought you here. So that's what we're happy about. And I guess that really goes to show that sometimes life takes you in certain directions, even if there isn't like an internal trigger, there might be an external trigger. And that might not be the worst thing, you know. So I guess that's what it teaches us. Thank you so much, Professor Gulani, for your answer. Moving on to Jidnasa, who is our in house expert on this transition from academia to industry. Jidnasa, same question for you. What was your trigger and what have your lessons been so far?
Hi, so you can hear me now, and I hope there is no background noise. So, first of all, thank you so much, Ocean, for this lovely introduction. It was really nice, and I'm absolutely honored to share the panelist or the round with Susanna Agalani and also with Joanna. So, thank you so much. It's an absolute honor. Mm, Talking about my personal journey, of course, with your introduction, now most people know that I have recently transitioned and successfully transitioned. Touch wood, I am really happy for it. But what were the key triggers? Were basically, let's say, connections and mentors all the way. So, giving you a little bit of history on my background, I have been a life scientist. I'm a biologist by profession, and all my life, being with my bachelor's and my master's, and then my second master's, I just kept specializing in different fields of life sciences. And later on, I thought, okay, this is what I would like to do. Maybe research is my end goal, and I definitely I don't see myself retiring from any field at the moment. But I was very sure that I would like to stay in research, and I was very sure of what field that I wanted to pursue, and whether it was cancer biology or genetics. However, when I was in my PhD, I was realizing with certain other triggers that maybe this is not something that I would like to do forever, because the more you specialize, the more it gets narrowed down the options for you to be in a certain environment. And for me at that time were the courses that I was pursuing, the mentors that I was seeking out for guidance, and the connections that I was making were the only strong pillars in my life that inculcated that yes, I definitely want to change, I definitely want to move out. And of course, making a long term plan, where every individual makes a short term plan and a long term plan. For me, when I was making these plans for myself, I saw that okay, uh, for me, academia wasn't the plan that I wanted to pursue. So that is how I have landed my job. However, I am not completely out of academia. I am still a doctoral candidate. So it is going on. And soon I will be leaving it, but I'm happy.
Well, we are glad to know that you have found your calling and you're very happy doing that. And one thing to note is that, like, five, that is about one fourth of our audience, has their PhD ongoing, and a little more has their PhD completed. So, as you mentioned, you had your trigger during your PhD. So, I'm sure that there are people in the audience who are going through that phase where they are thinking, oh, maybe I should do this, I shouldn't. So, we would love to hear from everyone. Please put it in the chat. If you have any specific questions for any of the speakers, you will also get a chance to speak to them personally. Now, last but not the least, Joanna, you have been a CTO, you have been a founder, you have raised, you have published. There's really so much. So, what was your trigger? Like, what was your trigger to say, okay, you know what? I want to start my own company, I want to raise some money?
Yes, so first of all, thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for sharing this panel with so amazing female roles, so and backgrounds. So I think that I will try to be short, but I think that it makes sense to talk a little bit of my background. So basically, I'm 31 years old. I'm a biomedical engineer by background, and so when I was younger, my wish was to be a scientist, a pure scientist. So taking the PhD and do research for all my life. So it ended up that I finished my master's and I get passionate about machine learning, in artificial intelligence, signal processing. So and trying to map the our whole bodies in using biosignals like ECG, EEG, brain signals in order to extract noisy patterns and to empower physicians with relevant information. So that has been my passion since I was a researcher, and I'm still a researcher. So when during my transition between the masters, I was also researcher in an institute that did the translation of science to the market field, and I got passionate about also the innovation part and also the intellectual property roadmap of companies and of spin-offs from the academia. So this is why now I have 6 patents, because I really love how to improve the supremacy of a company over the competition in terms of the technology overview. Basically, and then I decided based on all these projects, I decided to do a PhD in physics. I know that is very weird. It's not to study like black holes or so. It's very interesting, but so since I was passionate about healthcare as well, so I decided to do a PhD in applied physics in optical fiber sensors, and I created a new technology, also patented, that allows physicians and also bio life scientist researchers in order to detect peptides, proteins, and small molecules in very complex fluids like blood or serum from patients using only light and artificial intelligence. So this was a very innovative technique, and so I apply it together with my co-founders to the wildcard initiative from EIT Health, and we were the 2019 winners of the wildcard competition, and we won 2 million euros for the first investment, and till now we we raised about 8 million euros. Currently, I'm no longer the CTO because I'm pursuing new projects, because I'm still I'm so my passion is to pursue always different projects in different areas. So both in healthcare, but also in other fields that have always an impact in for the society. And I'm still a professor as well since 2018, and I'm still a researcher. So my trigger, I think that it was to find a solution and find something that has an impact for the society from the research field and from the science field.
Thank you so much, because I think that a lot of people here, I mean, I personally could really relate to your need to actually see your work out there and actually translate it into something that can be used. I've worked in EEG myself, and I know how difficult it can be to correlate all of those things. So, thank you. You are making our lives easier and better. So, thank you so much for taking this step to move into the industry. So, now that we have a brief overview of what the journeys of all the speakers has been, my next question is going a bit deeper into this process of transition. So I know that a lot of you have different backgrounds, both in the audience and amongst the speakers. So, what would you say helped you decide what is right for me? Because I'm sure that a lot of PhD students who are confused might be thinking, okay, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I regret this later? So, what do you think helps choose what is right for you, or how did you decide what was right for you? And just going by the order, Jitnasa, would you like to answer that question for us?
Sure. Thank you so much, Ocean. Um, well, for me, um, exploring different, let's say, diverse backgrounds was by, I mean, let's take a very simple example. In a PhD, you are working on a project, right? And with the audiences, I'm also assuming many of them are also doing their PhD or are at early stage career level. So you work on one project. In this one project, to make it successful, you have different branches to solve this project. Similarly, in your own personal life, for developing your own personal skills, you should have different sectors, different branches for yourself. Okay, that okay, I am interested in my PhD, but besides that, what else I'm interested in? Then you start developing your co-curricular hobbies. So I feel that at various levels, we should always reflect and make self-assessments. And the self-assessments are really required for you to reflect upon your own thoughts, your own motivations, and determination of doing what you want to pursue in your further life, and what, how, or where, in which direction you want to grow. So this was one of the main factors that helped me choose the right track. I mean, after my PhD, it could have been a postdoctoral fellowship, and I was considering that for a long time, but that did not happen. I started taking courses in my university for entrepreneurship, started taking courses, so kind of following the path of Joanna. So I really liked it. Thank you so much for giving a brief detail on your journey too. So this way, I started taking up tests and doing again assessments in the form of groups and succeeding at it. This made me get more motivated that okay, this is something that I could also do in my future. And that's how I it was a driving force for me to choose from one career to another career. It's not that I have just blindly taken this path. I have failed at many other paths, so I know that I am good at this particular path. This was the driving force.
Thank you so much. And I think that the fact that you mentioned stopping and reflecting, it's quite important, because there are many people in a certain field who spend maybe 20, 30 years in that field, and then they look back and say, oh, we did not make the right switch at the right time. Had we
Yeah.
only taken a step back, maybe we would have been in a different place. So,
Agreed.
yes, Thank you so much for that insight, and I'm sure that a lot of people here will also benefit from that. So, Joanna, the question also goes to you that what made you decide this? Like, because choosing to found your own company is not an easy decision. So, what was yours?
Yeah, I think that I've been taking decisions. So this could be like some kind of not scientifically or rational, but I've been taking some decisions based on following my heart. And I think that sometimes it doesn't make sense, but I can give some examples. Not like, for example, turning just an entrepreneur. So, for example, when I decided to change from a research institute, or change from a research institute that were more focused on fundamental research to an institute that was more in the translation of the science with the market, and working with the companies. So I like I just followed my instincts, and I decided that that was the one that was the decision that I want to do. And then, so for example, in terms of even within that institute, I had the possibility of publishing more, or even doing more publications for conferences and so on. But my heart, and I don't know, my mind followed my heart in terms of trying to approach more into this field of projects with industry, and try to understand which is a business model, a value proposition. So how we can apply or fill a patent for within a company. So what are the processes, what the evaluators from the patent attorneys think about, and how we can turn around some things. So, and again, I followed my heart. And then, so it was not about, of course, that it counts receiving funding in order to create a company, but I was in a so I was in a difficult situation in terms of, so everyone is, when finish a PhD, and has to decide to go to the academic part or to the industry part. But of course, that if you have funding, you have a new security. But anyway, there are a lot of risks, and so you don't know the behavior of the investors. You don't know the behavior. So if your solution would work, or if you will have actually clients. So that financial or that funding would be in trenches, and you have to comply with milestones. So, and then you have, like, I had a solid career in my research institute, but just I followed my heart, and I've been doing that during all my career journey. So yeah, it's my advice.
That's really good advice, I think, because while Jidnyasa's approach of stopping and reflecting is super systematic, I'm sure that it won't suit everyone. And there are some people like me as well who might vibrate more with your way of thinking, where we're just following our heart and seeing where it takes us. And I think it takes a lot of grit and courage to do that, actually, to leave behind some security and move into something that you want to do. So I suppose that it just shows that if you want to go into something like funding or something like starting your own company, then you need to be perseverant, you need to be courageous, and you need to be optimistic, because I can see that Joanna clearly is. So now,
we have to be optimistic in this field of entrepreneurship.
precisely. And I think that if there are optimistic people out there, then feel free to become an entrepreneur. And moving on, we have Professor Galani, who has more experience in this field of deciding what to do exactly. So, yes, please tell us what you think fits whom, and if there are some like signs which people can look for to decide what they want to do.
So first of all, please feel free to call me Susanna. We don't have to be formal. So I am so impressed by both of the stories that we just heard and how different their approach has been. So much that I am a little bit in a panic here because I feel my choice was quite irresponsible in hindsight. But I felt I could be good at this. It was just uh, I have to, I want to qualify my statement. I was in a very fortunate position because I had a preview through my husband of what this life would be like. So I could see into the future of how different, and it is very different to work in academia versus working in industry. I also was very fortunate that when I applied to PhD programs, the person that then became my advisor allowed me to audit some of the PhD seminar classes because she was the first one to be very worried about the transition and would I be knowing what I was getting myself into. So I had a lot of guidance coming from outside. And I was also in a financial and family situation that would allow me to take these risks. So if you have, small children and, you are maybe you don't have additional bandwidth in your finances, you have to really take into account the possibility that this may not be the right road for you. So do you have an exit plan? I personally did not. I kind of jumped into this with both feet because I really felt I could enjoy it and I felt I could be good at it. Now the jury's still out, right? I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but that's another thing that I would caution people that want to transition from industry to academia. There's a lot more uncertainty than one would expect at the outset. You feel like, because you remember school from what it was in your previous programs, and you just think that if you do the right thing and you're a good student and you apply yourself and you work very hard, things will work out. Academia has a sneaky way of getting weird sometimes, and whether it's that you need to secure funding and there's a lot of uncertainty in whether your grant will go through or not, whether you will be associated with the right mentor for you or not, whether your papers will publish and people will find them interesting and worthwhile or not. So there's a lot of uncertainty and you need to be very comfortable with that type of uncertainty. So for me, just to sum it up, it's a combination of having had very important guidance from the outside even before I pulled the plug. And I would recommend that, and also, the ability to take a risk, because it was a risk. I would recommend that to the extent that you can, connect with people on the other side, whether you're transitioning from in one direction or the other, but ask a lot of questions. Talk to people that are comfortable telling you the good, the bad, and the ugly about what you're getting yourself into. It's not a PR activity. You don't have to, attract people or talk to people that have an interest in attracting you to their side. You really want to know the truth because it's your life, and you're going to make a decision that may or may not be easy to reverse if you find yourself in a situation that's not the right fit for you.
That's some really sound advice. And I think that now we've basically covered all kinds of advice, right? We went from the sitting back and analyzing to following your heart to actually just doing a practical overview of, can I do this or can I not? So that makes a lot of sense. And I think that what you mentioned about risk taking and also about the difference between academia and industry, sometimes people in the industry might be so frustrated with, like these delays and things that they need to get to corporate and this and that, and they think, you know what, in academia I'll just have one professor and I'll just like talk to them and it'll be all roses and butterflies, and it's really not. The same professor will probably take like 2 weeks to respond to your email. So just a fair warning to everyone. So yes, thank you so much for your answer, Susanna, and I really hope that people are also asking questions, interacting. I will be going through those questions once I ask the next question so that then I can follow it up with the audience questions as well. So the next question is actually a bit more focused and a bit more to the point, I would say, because we have basically spoken about right from the journey what the triggers were, what the lessons were. Then we've moved on to who do you think will suit what? And now we are coming to what, according to you, are deal breakers for a certain decision that someone is planning to take. And I've probably given this example 1,000 times, but if someone is used to, or like they want to get like quick money, or they just don't want to put in that much effort, and they're like doing that at their job, they probably shouldn't switch to academia. It's a pretty crude example, but that's pretty much it. So that's my question. And Joanna, I would like to start with you. So please tell me what, according to you, is a deal breaker in terms of decision making. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think that I understand, but unfortunately, I think that if perseverance, if it's not there, both for being a good scientist and a good sea level, it's not possible. But I think that it's a deal breaker. One of the things, probably it's not correlated with your question, but I think that it's important to mention that I think that it's a barrier to the innovation and probably the scale up of some very interesting and promising projects from the academia to the to the market, like spin-offs, startups, and so on. And I felt that I've been seeing that. So hopefully, so this has been changing a lot. So basically. I think that the hierarchy that you feel in the academia, so basically, so when you are like a PhD student or like someone that is a researcher, and you have like your supervisor or your co-supervisor, it is very difficult to cross that barrier when you have like a very good idea and you pitch to your supervisor, and then you have to pitch to your co-supervisor, and then you have to pitch to the head of the department, and then to the head of the institute. And those are barriers that you have to cross, and they are very difficult to handle. And sometimes there are very good ideas and very good projects that are completely lost in these barriers. And fortunately, there are organisms like EIT, so MIT, and so on. They are promoting so initiatives in order to for so independently of your degree, if you are a PhD or if you are a student or if you are just working in a company or in a corporate, if you have really a good idea, you have the opportunity to pitch. But unfortunately, for PhD students and for researchers, you have this kind of barrier, and you are a little bit so exposed to the scrutiny of some points that that are raised in terms, just because it was you that had the idea, not your supervisor or not your someone that is above you. So I don't know if what you are understanding. So if you are understanding my idea, I think that it's not I think this is a deal breaker, not in the sense that you are asking, but in a sense that is blocking the innovation process and the creation of new startups with very good, very good, so very suitable impact for the society.
Understood. I think that what you're saying makes sense for everyone here, be it academia or industry, because it just shows that in academia specifically, if you are not patient, if you are not perseverant, if you are not as invested in your idea to actually get it out there, then maybe it's not right for you. So
Exactly.
yes, correct. So you spoke about it in terms of the project. So I've just translated it into a personal term, what some people might be able to relate to over here. So thank you very much, Joanna. It was really good that you covered that. And I hope that many people here are able to learn from whatever you've spoken to us about. Now, moving on, we also have Susanna, and I'm sure that you'll have a good answer for us. What do you think is the deal breaker in terms of what someone should or shouldn't choose based on what kind of personality they have, what kind of situation they have, etc.?
So I have three deal breakers, and any of the three should be a deal breakers. If you are thinking about going into academia, you need to have all three of the following things. One, you need to love people. It sounds crazy because we think of academics like working on the research, maybe in a lab. I'm an accounting professor, so there's very little lab work for us, but nonetheless, it seems like it's very independent. But remember, a big part of your academic career is teaching, and another big part of your academic career is contributing to others' work. So communication is super important, and you really, really, really need to love people. And if you're not a good people person, this is not for you, because you will spend a lot of time with students, with co-authors, with colleagues, with people at conferences, and you really need to want to do that. The second deal breaker, you absolutely need to be self-started and totally independent in your schedule. Nobody is going to put deadlines on you, other than some exceptions, but most of your research work is totally self-administered. And if you're not good at following up with your work and making sure that you get things done, it's going to be very difficult for you to just reach the goals that you set for yourself and meet those criteria that will allow you to be successful at this work. My problem is the opposite. I take on too many things. And that's another thing, though. You need to really be aware of your bandwidth and what can you really do or not in a certain unit of time. Excuse me. The third thing, which speaks to what Joanna was saying, you need to be resilient, and I will qualify that further to criticism. You will be criticized in quite aggressive ways, both in your teaching by your students. Some of them will love you, and obviously there's balance in everything, but as human beings, we are hurt more by the negative criticism that we take pleasure in the positive one. And so you need to be ready to be criticized, sometimes unfairly and sometimes pretty publicly. When you present a paper at a conference, there is a person, a discussant, whose job is to poke holes in your paper. And you need to take that as an opportunity for improvement. And even when it sounds cruel and unfair and not on point, and maybe the person didn't even read your paper that well, you need to just be able to move on and continue down your journey. So if you lack any of these three, I think a role in academia can be very, very difficult.
Indeed. Thank you so much. And I think that that also sort of answered one of our the questions that we had from one of our audience members, which was what skills are important to build from to go from industry to academia. So now, as you said, it's very important to be sort of immune to criticism, and more than that, just to be able to be on your path without getting too affected by it. Take it, maybe incorporate it if it makes sense, and then move on. Thank you so much for your answer. And let's move on to last but not the least, Jinnasa. So we also have you here, and I know that you are a part of EIT Health as well. So you already know that, all the things that are being offered here, etc. But what, according to you, is the deal breaker for someone who is making this transition?
Yeah, thank you, Ocean. I'm actually a little bit happy and relieved that I have been going last for this because I got the points from Joanna and Susanna, and it really helped me even think internally once again and also sort out my points. So I know that Joanna talked more on the terms of entrepreneurship and how it was in her journey, and then Susanna was giving really deal breakers from the academia side. So I thought, why not? I take it further and make like common points as deal breakers between academia and industry. So for me, when I was doing my own self-assessment, again going back to my previous thing, that yes, self-assessment at every step is required because not only you know yourself, but you also understand what you enjoy doing doing in your regular life. So with academia, what I have observed, so this was my journey, that I am more of a people's person. I love people, and for me, especially for me, it was a lonesome journey. I was in a very small group while doing my PhD, and yes, we were not able to. We had funding crisis, so I also had those scenarios where I was a struggling PhD student, and this inculcated more fear to pursue further this field. But I'm not saying that this is the most of the times the case with every PhD student. I also have my colleagues who are really excelling and who have also reached to this point that they are now junior group leaders and have their own positions as a staff scientist. So this is the thing that I found, that okay, and until and unless you see for yourself what you enjoy doing in, what you excel in, and what type of an environment you want to live in, I think those are the deal breakers. So there are also people who are very vocal about saying that I like to be in a very appreciation driven environment. And by that appreciation driven, what I mean is that they constantly get feedbacks, be it positive criticism, be it sometimes negative criticism, but they do get feedback from their peers, colleagues, and this sort of builds more motivation to give work or promote work in their setting, environmental setting, or work setting. Coming to the business side or in the industry side, we work on deadlines. Yes. So there are no internal deadlines, how it is in academia, but there are deadlines, alleged deadlines, that people are depending upon you to get some work done. But then at the end of the day, you do not have to think about, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? What paper I need to finish? What do I have to finish for my PhD? Where do I have to represent? Do I have to prepare for a conference? So they are usually short on a short term basis. And once you achieve them, either you do it well, or there is a remark that okay, maybe you improved on the next time. So for me, this was more easier to do job, and I felt that I could do it more. Plus I got this perk of being in the environment where I can meet more people, where I can make more connections. So of course it gave me more opportunity to flourish and see for myself what I was enjoying to begin with. So deal breaker again was that I wouldn't want to be in an environment where I saw that there were misfitting people along with me, and I made sure that I also chose those mentors and and I always made sure that the people around me were also giving me the same level of, let's say, acknowledgements. So this is what I consider as a deal breaker.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And especially coming to the deadlines thing and the schedule thing, because I've experienced this myself. Because when I was in academia, we had really like scheduled project deadlines and really scheduled projects. But in the industry, what I encounter very often is that for days on end, I don't have any specific deadlines, and then there's suddenly something which you urgently need to fulfill, and then there's again like a lull period, or sometimes there are multiple deadlines consecutively, and that's when you actually start burning out. So that's something that I think speaks to everyone who is used to a specific schedule. And if you are not someone who can very easily set self-made goals, then maybe industry is not the best, because in the industry you will have to do that yourself. You will have to tell yourself, you know what, this is the project I want to work on, and this is what I want to finish for now, before my boss comes and starts hounding me for the completed project itself. So thank you so much, Janasa. And now we can actually move on to the audience questions, because we have quite a few and we have exactly 9 minutes before it is done. So firstly, I would like to highlight this one question, which is basically, I think mainly for Jignasa, because I think you are in a similar position as Catherine would like to be in. So she says that when transitioning from academia to industry, she has shared her CV with an industrial recruiters, but she has gotten offers for R&D positions. But she's more interested in like business positions, which is something that you're in right now. So how would you like to answer that?
Sure, I can take this question. Thank you, Catherine, for even putting up this question. Thanks for the courage. And of course, this question is the basic question. Everybody asks it. When I started out, even I asked myself, okay, I am applying for positions, I am getting some positions, but they are not the positions that I am interested in or I want to get in. It's pretty obvious because you excel in an academic degree. Uh, it's ideally you are looked forward to pursuing positions in that particular field, right? But I would say this is my perception that once you have any post graduation degree, let's call it master's degree, where you specialize in a subject, and you have more, or you also pursue a PhD degree, what you do in understanding or studying these degrees is you also understand how to manage your own time. So basically, you learn how to manage your own soft skills, like time management, project management. How are you managing your studies? So these are the skills that are also required on a job. What you need to do is when you are pursuing your R&D positions, you just have to see where you have excelled at in your department and translate them into business positions. For example, first you also need to know what are the departments that are present in an industry. If you are aware that okay, there is a sales department, there is business, because business is a very broad field. What under business you would like to do? Would you like to handle sales? Would you like to handle marketing? And what is it that you enjoy doing most? So based on that, you can just segregate, make your own key points in it, and see what exactly you like doing it, and just translate your work done to what you would like to do and how it fits to the newer position. How I started by doing it is whenever I would look at a job description given by the company and where I was interested in, for let's say for a business development position, I would just highlight, okay, I could do this. And I would always try to explain what I have done in my past as a life scientist, as a PhD, and how I could translate that in doing something in business development. For instance, how I was managing projects, how I was managing let's say, a communication between between my professors or between other colleagues. So this is how I translated my past experiences to my future ones, and I was just giving those examples even during my interviews.
Perfect. That I think that would have answered my question. That if that was my question, so thank you. I think what you're saying is that what matters is the translatability of the skills, and in the beginning they might incur these problems, but what matters is how you emphasize those things in your CV and not just put the positions that you've held. The next question is, I think, for Joanna. So what the question is about hybrid options, that is a research role in industry or entrepreneur inside a company, and something to experiment with less risk. And if I remember correctly, you had done a little bit of work in scientific communications. So I think that's sort of on the border. Would you like to answer this?
Yes, yes, sure. Thank you so much, Anna, for this question. It's very interesting, actually. So, and it's quite challenging. So this hybrid mode. So, the risk you have when you have to found a company, or so to be in the C level of a company, so you have always to take the risk. This is this is required from the investors, is required from your co-founders, so it's even required from you. However, there is always space to have your, I would say, your besides jobs that you feel that they could be suitable for you. So, for example, for me, teaching, I think that it complements me, and also I think that it's important also for the branding of of my projects, and also for doing contacts, for networking, for keeping the research part in active mode in terms of publishing papers and so on. But you have to always to decide to which parts of the jobs you will dedicate more, because so you have always to assume a risk. So if you have to go deep on your own startup or your own company, and that this company has must to be successful. So this is my opinion.
Yes, I think that definitely answers Anna's question. And what you're basically saying is that it is risky in both cases, but in both ways, it is doable as well. And we have one last question which we can take. And I think that, Susanna, you might be able to answer this. So Shivani is applying for PhD positions, and she has been working in a medical device company for a year. She's been finding it difficult to get a PhD position, quite understandable. So, do you have any tips on how to fill the gap? I know lab work is not really your thing, but how did you end up receiving that PhD position?
So for me, and I can also speak now that I'm on the other side when we look for applicants, right? So there's a couple of things that now being on the receiving end of the pile of CVs and applications, I would say, first of all, you need to look for people that do research in what you're interested in. Just because you have experience or you want to do this, it doesn't mean that you are a good fit for every school. And I'm not talking about, the ranking of the school. I'm just talking about the content of the research that people are doing at that particular school. So I have no idea how you have been, how Shivani, you have been selecting the PhD programs you're applying to. But I remember when I was in industry, for me, it was like, well, geography, like I want to be, we were living in Michigan at that time. So for me, it was natural to apply to Michigan programs. I have then learned that that's not a good way to pick a good fit for your PhD program. you really need to, what you're trying to do is to market yourself to somebody in the faculty that will find it valuable and will feel like they can add value to your research by doing joint work. So the most important message that you can convey is what you're interested in terms of research questions and research interests. And you need to target programs that have faculty, and especially senior faculty, tenured faculty, that actually do the work in that space. For example, at Harvard Business School, I'm in the accounting and management unit. If you were interested in doing research on audit firms, this would not be a good fit for you because we don't have any senior faculty that actually specializes in that work. The other thing that I would say, again, I can't speak for the lab experience because that's not how social sciences work, or at least accounting. But it is also important that you show some experience in actual research. So it's becoming more and more important right now. So whether you can secure maybe a role as a research assistant for a while, you don't have to do it for 3 years, even if you have a short experience, but having been involved in the actual research production process, it could be very valuable. So I would say 2 things. Pick your PhD programs very carefully based on the fit between your research interests, which should be very, very clearly described in your letters, in your essays, in your application. It should be very clear what you're all about. And also maybe, read some of the papers and the published work that these people on the faculty have produced, because the last thing you want, it happens to me all the time. I get people that apply to our program and they say, oh, I would love to work with Professor Galani because of her work on something that I haven't even done. So you need to really pay attention. It's a lot of work, but you really need to cherry pick your faculty members and read their work before you can pitch yourself more effectively. I think this could make a difference.
Yes, I think that would absolutely make a difference because sometimes a PhD might not be the first choice for everyone, and something like a research assistant role, which might not require that much, like a high level of publications or a high level of lab work, that could be one of the options. So yes, that brings us to the end of the panel discussion, but all the audience can also interact with all the speakers here. Thank you so very much for being here on this panel. You can all clap for the speakers from the reaction buttons. And also, I would like to hand over to Hanane right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ocean. All right. Thank you very much for the speakers and for the audience for staying with us till the end. As mentioned, this female leadership series was brought to you by EIT Helped Innovators Community and EIT Women. If you want to learn more, don't hesitate to go out to our website. And if you'd like to become a volunteer and join us, please feel free to contact Ocean or myself on LinkedIn or on any other platform. And we are glad to announce already the next episode of the series that will be happening on the 24th of November with the theme of Own and Drive Your Career with Effective Communication. So we look forward to also seeing you there. And for now, we want to thank you for attending. And as mentioned, there will be networking rooms or chat rooms in a bit. So look forward to seeing you there in a few seconds. There will be a 30-second delay, but we'll see you there in a minute or two. Right.